to become a demigod as soon as possible in order to join Snowden's disciples, which requires successfully completing the invasion. The elders encourage him with all their might and in every possible way, saying that they believe in their youngest. Lena hands the students special bracelets, saying that they are needed to maintain contact with the divine world. The ship leaves their world and goes to one of the outer ones, chosen by the Academy for the exam. Sometime later, it lands and Charlie gets out of the transport. The invasion mission begins. Standing on one of the small plateaus, the boy takes out some bags from his pocket and is going to find out what the elders have prepared for him. But then something strange happens. Two of the three miraculously evaporate, leaving behind only a dark haze. Charlie is amazed. He thinks about it, but is still glad that at least one is left, and opens it, looking inside. The bag contains something that looks like old parchment and some blue cards. From the note, the guy learns that he found himself in a world of runes. There are only 26 of them, and each has unique properties, as well as combinations. He looks at the blue cards and understands that they contain energy that is capable of pushing through the will of the external worlds. After analyzing the situation, Charlie finds it necessary to summon his creatures, and his choice falls on the half-dragons. He is going to start hunting local creatures in order to obtain the sources of the universe, because according to Lena, this method is the easiest. An hour later, the boy has a fit of hysterics. During this time, we manage to earn only half of the source of the universe. It's too slow, and Charlie summons 50 more creatures, leaving him with 5 cards. He manages to find his next target, and the guy sends the main representatives out to hunt. He orders the locusts to capture the camp with the minotaurs, and the insects dive down on the enemies in unison. Tart is somewhere nearby. He really has conspired with Shannon, and right now he has a premonition of his imminent meanness. He plans to give the iron-blooded demon, given by the Elder, the hair of his rival, so that he will hunt only him. Surprisingly, the student has the necessary biological material, and he sends it to the demon's urn. The object in the young man's hand is immediately enveloped in a dark haze, and Tart steps back in fear, not wanting to fall under its influence. Throwing the container into the air, he orders his creature to move away and break it, which it does without question. And right there, right before their eyes, the demon that had escaped to freedom began to take on flesh with its characteristic roar. Seeing what the creature is capable of, Tart laughs maliciously, firmly convinced that it will not leave a single wet spot on his classmate. The hatred that this demon has accumulated for 1,000 years while he was imprisoned can only be washed away by the blood of the one who became his target. Charlie, unaware that he is being hunted, goes about his business, holding several small particles that look like seeds in his hand. He believes that this should be enough to unlock the transformation into a black dragon. The guy intends to use the remaining 5 cards to summon the rest of the half-dragons. Suddenly, a light-haired ox appears before him, with a red stone glowing on its forehead. Charlie orders his creatures to deal with him, and they rush to attack the enemy. A moment later, his mournful final howl reverberates through the surrounding area. In the Wolf King's lair, Charlie finds some curious objects and is eager to learn about their properties. The first student unrolls the scroll and notes with delight that it is the rune word. Now all that remains is to collect the rune combination, and he lays out all the runes in front of him, beginning to peer at them with tension. Having familiarized himself with the necessary information, the guy decides to cast the word on his body, since he does not have a suitable weapon. He feels changes in himself almost immediately, believing that he has become much stronger. But the guy's activity is interrupted. He notices something strange. Wanting to figure things out, Charlie transforms into the black dragon and flies towards the irritant that bothered him. He lands next to his half-dragons and looks at what dared to put a spoke in their wheels. A light-skinned creature that resembles a catman just jumps on one of the creatures, causing the others to be amazed. The evil beast cuts the half-dragon's body into several large pieces with its strongest claws. The gaze of its eyes with vertical pupils is merciless. Charlie realizes that the demon in front of him is a Lord-level demon, which means that the opponent is serious. The cat is surrounded by several half-dragons on all sides, but he doesn't show that he feels threatened. He rushes forward, continuing to tear his enemies to shreds. But the demon is surprised when the limbs of the seemingly defeated begin to regenerate. The cat's gaze becomes much more angry than before as he turns his gaze to the creature's owner. Both he and Charlie agree, and the next moment they rush at each other. The dragon boy starts to emit an aura, believing that the fight will happen at just the right moment. He stops, stockpiling the necessary supplies, and the demon cat, approaching with claws raised at the ready, is perplexed. The guy's gaze is determined. There is not even a hint of a smile on his face, and the aura continues to envelop the body with its fiery tongues. And finally, Charlie breaks forward, having gathered enough strength for a blow that hits the cat right in the face. The system notifies that one of the lords of this world has been defeated, for which the student receives 2 sources of the universe. Charlie smiles contentedly. Now he will be able to summon his favorite skeletons, and perhaps this will contribute to a faster rank increase. A few days later, one of the locusts informs its god that it was able to find a cave with fire crystals. The guy announces that this very cave is their next target, and the expedition, led by him and the undead, sets out on their journey. As he approaches the cave, he senses that it gives off an aura that is typical of a rather powerful creature, and assumes that someone has already taken a liking to this place. But this does not diminish the desire to go inside, and Charlie fearlessly takes the first steps. Walking further, the young man feels a wave of unbearable heat and reflexively covers himself with his hands, grimacing. A creature resembling a huge lion emerges from the depths of the cave, still covering itself with its hands. Charlie tries to understand who is in front of him, but he gets bored, and the guy transforms into a dragon, marveling at his luck with the cat family. Charlie takes a defensive stance, but the rapidly approaching lion suddenly stops abruptly. An evil face with horns appears from behind the big cat. The girl grabs the lion by the tail and pulls it mercilessly towards herself, asking where he was running. The creature tries to escape from her tenacious hands. Looking at her, Charlie remembers her name. Her name is Flora, and Flora angrily says that since she came here first, the territory became hers. The guy smiles, saying that there is no one's territory here, and asks what if he refuses to leave the cave to the girl. She stops terrorizing the lion and rushes straight at Charlie, replying that in that case she will beat his face good. The boy frowns as he begins to fusion with the plant, Shadowvine, and is enveloped in a poisonous green color, a harbinger of the death rain. Wrapping itself around the still-standing male body, the vine begins to grow. And Flora keeps getting closer, calling the technology pathetic tricks and confident that it won't help the guy. The same one, with a completely different opinion, promising to change the point of view of his rival, hits the target, provoking an explosion. Suddenly, something flashes behind the girl, and she, surprised and frightened, turns around. With one sure move, Charlie cuts off the horn that flies back, warning its owner that next time he will aim for the neck. Flora's eyes widen in surprise and the realization that she has lost. She admits her loss and allows Charlie to take the lion, but the guy says that he doesn't need the lion, he came for the flame crystals. Flora says that in that case she will take it for herself and suggests that they join forces after that, but the guy ignores these words. Clouds are starting to gather in the sky. The undead stands near the entrance to the cave and looks at the source of energy that is beginning to form and rapidly increase in size. Flora asks if Charlie is his creator, and he says that among his creatures there is no one with such a suffocating aura. But soon, the creature's owner appears, and at first the student's attention is drawn to a huge red-clawed foot. Following her owner, the iron-blooded demon, emerges from the haze. He screams at the top of his lungs that he can smell his enemy, pointing at Charlie and intending to wash away his shame with his blood. The guy fuses with the golden dragon grass and Flora runs away. After completing the process, Charlie uses an ability called Golden Dragon's Breath, which envelops the enemy in heat. But he doesn't care. He releases his demonic aura, opening his mouth wide and angrily flashing his red eyes. Charlie's next attack is Phantom Flash. He is helped by Flora, who appears nearby again, breathing fire at the monster. The boy notices that the fire is effective and summons the Divine Hammer. To do this, you have to spend a Source of the Universe card, but it is a necessary measure. A moment later, a red orc blacksmith appears in the arena with his beloved weapon. Pointing his finger at the demon, Charlie asks his protege to destroy it. Divine Hammer looks at its master carefully, taking in the order. He, as always, is ready to fulfill it, unquestioningly following the will of his great god. This can be seen just by his eyes. The orc begins to emit streams of more powerful aura as he prepares for the upcoming attack. The demon overtakes the creature in front, calling it a pathetic servant and telling it to die. But the red orc also completes the attack and rushes forward together with the formed snakes, predatorily opening their mouths at the enemy. Something similar to stone icicles flies at the same time from the side of the enraged demon. But the attacks of the hammer snakes prove more effective to the point that the demon asks him to stop them, for his body is riddled with holes. But Hammer doesn't even think about stopping, jumping into the air and wanting to deliver the final blow surrounded by snakes. A big explosion envelops space. Charlie is delighted for his charge, praising him and saying that he never doubted him, and asking him to continue in the same spirit. And Hammer takes this phrase literally, continuing to hit the enemy with his impressive weapon. This goes on for a very long time, but for some reason the demon's soul is not destroyed. Charlie cannot leave him here in this state. He comes up with the idea of asking the collector to absorb her, but the demon begins to ask for mercy on his soul in exchange for loyalty. Charlie approaches the creature's patty closer, saying that he cannot believe until a contract is made. The demon agrees. The guy immediately finds the necessary documents in the system and enters what is needed in the empty fields. He does not intend to waste time. He giggles maliciously, and Flora, who is watching all this, notices that her classmate is behaving worse than the most notorious swindler. The air is cut by bluish threads of energy. The system notifies about the successful conclusion of the contract. Charlie asks his slave about his abilities. He replies that he can turn a body into metal and even corrode living things. But even after hearing this, the guy believes that his new creature has more disadvantages than advantages, and the first of them is the fear of fire. Then the demon says that he can become a weapon. Thanks to his corrosion, any weapon that comes into contact will rust. Charlie likes this. He tells the demon to proceed, and it turns into a powerful sword, letting out a sigh of relief. Charlie smiles. He has wanted a sword for a long time. It turns out that the demon turned up in time, and now the guy can continue his hunt. A few days later, a man crouched closer to the ground, afraid to even look up at the army of undead. He intends to immediately report everything to the city lord, because the army consists of 500,000 warriors. Sometime later, the local ruler almost screams in shock, struck by the report of a 500,000 strong army of the undead. The witness, continuing to bow at the feet of the ruler, once again confirms his words. The lord understands that he is losing. His army is far inferior to the undead. If they decide to attack the city, nothing will remain of him. The lord gives the order to immediately send messages asking for help to the nearest cities, and his subordinates rush to carry it out. The next day, reinforcements arrive in the city. The army grows, but still does not outnumber the undead. The lord is confident that they now have every chance of victory. The forces of the Holy Court have always been famous for their effectiveness. He delivers a fiery speech to his renewed army, giving the order to defend the homeland and stop the enemy. He himself goes into battle armed and on horseback, wanting to inspire the warriors with his own example. Charlie and Flora are sitting under a huge tree. The guy is informed by his representative about the approaching army of people. The guy is inspired, happy that they decided to meet him after all. The girl looks around at her classmate in bewilderment. Charlie duplicates the information that was reported to him and offers to join him. The girl sees a catch in this. Nevertheless, she agrees, and a little later, both preparatory class students are sitting in ambush. The guy says that he likes Flora's fighting spirit, finding it cute. The girl, embarrassed, tells him to take his hands away, he needs to concentrate. Numerous ranks of horsemen are getting closer and closer. Charlie orders his skeleton army to leave the ambush. They do so, and the people, seeing the undead, become frightened, giving a hasty order to raise their shields. The warriors scream in fear, trying to retreat with their backs. They regret that they got involved in this matter, realizing that they were in an ambush. The undead are right inside the locust swarm, their lipless teeth clicking menacingly. While the rank and file skeletons fight on the ground, the resurrectionist flies higher, looking out for its potential victims. He is ready, at the right moment, to raise the dead from the bodies of murdered people. With a determined look, the Lord orders the priests to do their part of the job. They immediately surround him, carrying out their plan. The skeletons immediately begin to feel the influence of divine power. Charlie is puzzled. Considering the first priority to get rid of the priests, he guessed that they would appear. Suddenly, Flora bursts forward again with her horns in a swift flash, her gaze focused and serious. But Charlie is not going to sit back in the rear either, taking the form of a black dragon and rushing after the girl. And she already appears near the priests. disrupting their perfect formation and forcing them to fly apart in different directions. And Charlie destroys enemies even from a decent distance with a flash of a blade, tearing their clothes to shreds. The students stand with their backs to each other, and the Dragon Boy stretches his hand forward and uses suppression. The skeletons rush forward with renewed vigor, stunning and destroying the enemy in hot pursuit. One of the soldiers returns to his lord, bringing bad news. The people have been defeated and the undead army continues to advance. Watching what is happening from a height, the ruler understands that they have lost and gives the order to begin a complete evacuation. After the capture, Charlie is disappointed. He expected much more, which cannot be said about the extremely pleased Flora. The guy melancholically notes the girl's joy out loud and suggests why this is so, and then suggests dividing the runes. He notes that he has 4 slots for runes, but considers the runes he received weak and decides to give them to the creatures. Flora is happy when she chooses a rune. She is glad that she is one step closer to getting her first monarch, and thanks Charlie. He winks at his classmate, generously allowing himself not to be thanked. Flora's cheeks turn red as she finds the guy funny and begins to understand why Cyan likes him. In another city, the ruler is stunned, unwilling to believe that an undead army has captured his neighbor. The subject confirms these words and says that the disaster has affected 4 nearby cities, and the army of the undead is growing. The ruler jumps up from his seat, ordering that the archbishop be brought to him, and also that the king of the elves, minotaurs, and werewolves be contacted. A little later, a meeting of the aforementioned takes place at the round table. The kings of the elves and werewolves are ready to unite and attack. The king of men is glad that they were able to come to a common opinion so quickly, and is confident that with joint efforts they will be able to destroy the dead. The woman tells the man she is sitting on that his father is going to unite with representatives of other races and priests. The guy's eyes widen in surprise, but he doesn't show his anger in any other way, because he understands perfectly well who the intruder could be. Rumors about the number of creatures in the classmates' ranks make Chaz think about friendship and teaming up with Charlie. Thanks to this girl's hints, he finally understood how he could become a demigod. And first of all, he needed an impressive army. Chaz believes that in order to become a demigod of this world, he needs to master a special runic word. The problem is that even the royal family doesn't have it, and the guy doesn't know where he could find it in principle. Chaz sees the only way out as joining forces with Charlie. Only through joint efforts will they be able to obtain the necessary word. The girl asks what he is thinking about because she is talking to him, and tells him that the Elf Queen will come to her father tomorrow. The guy comes to his senses, finally returning from his thoughts, and says that no Elf Queen can compare with the princess's beauty. He sets the following goal for himself, because he believes that there is not a single woman in the world with whom he cannot cope. He grabs the girl by the waist, and now she ends up on the bottom, giggling and noting her partner's depravity. Charlie's surprised voice carries over the city, repeating the words about the union of the 4 kingdoms and the Holy Church. Flora looks at her interlocutor sullenly, asking what he was surprised about since he has a huge army. He agrees, but only partially. It's not about quantity, but about quality. The skeleton army is weak. They can only overwhelm with numbers, so it will be quite troublesome. The source intervenes in the conversation. He has another idea, but the price also does not change. Divinity must be at stake. Charlie asks to share at least part of the idea, because otherwise he will not be able to understand whether it is worth wasting or not. The source knows some words. Charlie asks what, but the entity refuses to say until it receives its payment. Having thanked the owner, he shares with him, but only whispering in his ear. Hearing them, Charlie thinks that this might actually work, and Flora, noticing the change in her classmate, asks about her. The guy's gaze becomes sly. He says that soon she will see everything herself. The Locusts approach the Alliance army, and the warriors are going to destroy them, realizing that they, like the undead, serve the same ruler. They start swinging their swords in the air, and some manage to cut through the small bodies. The people are inspired, but a suspicious black fog begins to swirl around the Locusts, and the warriors become frightened. And for good reason, mushrooms immediately begin to grow on them. Men pluck them, but it doesn't help much. At that very moment, they are surrounded by dark hordes, and people become even more frightened than before. The undead mixed with locusts are getting closer and closer. Charlie can't help but notice that it turned out even better than he expected. The mushrooms, the Black Death, became even more effective. He smirks, thinking it was worth his investment and effort, and the source echoes next to him, all thanks to the effect of the word he shared. And this word was a mid-level rune, Plague, which imposes an effect on the body that makes every cell become a carrier of the plague. Standing on a hill, Charlie gives his troops the order to go into battle. The archers release their deadly arrows. Thanks to the Black Death and the Locusts, he managed to defeat the first units of the Union Army and acquire 5 skeleton heroes. The king asks if anyone has any ideas, because if they keep losing people and retreating, there will be nothing left of the kingdom. The man is furious, believing that this cannot be allowed to happen. One of the council members suggests that the only option left is peace, and the king asks with whom, in his opinion, they should negotiate. The question is good, because the opponent has not shown himself during all this time. The door opens, interrupting the council. A smiling Chaz enters the hall with the princess and the queen of the elves, asking to be given the opportunity to negotiate. The werewolf king does not believe in him, believing that the guy has never been to war, since he will be able to negotiate with the Lord of the Undead. The bishop is angry, glaring at the young man and asking who let the princess's favorite in here in the first place. And Chess himself, looking straight at the representatives of different races who don't believe in him, smiles slyly. The princess enters the conversation, putting pressure on her father and asking if he doesn't believe his daughter's words, since she has confidence in this man. The Elven Queen also vouches for Chaz's intelligence, saying that she will cast her vote in favor of his candidacy. The king notes that they have no other options anyway, so he suggests giving this young man a chance. Sometime later, the blonde enters the territory of the skeleton army and confidently moves towards his classmate. Seeing him, Charlie grins, saying that he didn't expect to meet him here. They hug like good friends, and Chess says that he has come here to propose a truce on behalf of the Union of 4 States. Charlie grins and says that he is ready to stop his mighty army only if the price is right. Chess confirms that this is exactly what he came here for, and his interlocutor voices a list of what he wants to get, most of which concerns runes. The blonde, smiling slyly, sums up, voicing how much of what the kingdom can provide to the usurper. He continues by saying that the elves will pay more than the humans, and the werewolves and minotaurs with the church will quadruple everything. The young man does not want to offend the Elven Queen, because he will still have dealings with her, so he dumps most of it on the latter. Charlie says he agrees to these terms, and a slightly puzzled Ches promises that there will be no problems. He shares information about becoming a demigod with a classmate, and he agrees to work together. Ches leaves to hand over the terms, and Charlie says that if he refuses, he will raze everything to the ground. It's not the first time for him. The king of the Minotaurs is perplexed as to how his kingdom and the werewolf can fulfill their agreement, since they simply do not have that many rewards. Ches suggests replacing the items with something equally valuable, such as information about ancient relics or divinity points. The elven queen asks why her people had to pay so much, and only the humans have little. The guy has an excuse. The human princess says that her father asked her to convey that he agrees to the conditions. Ches flirts with her and asks if she wants to personally reward him for his bravery, and she, embarrassed, agrees. A bishop enters the room with complaints. Not only does he not like the conditions, he says that his order will never bow to the darkness. Ches smiles sweetly, saying that his job is just to pass on information. The kings of the Minotaurs and werewolves agree with the priest. They want to try to fight, and in case of failure, they are ready to pay off. In previous clashes, the church did not use its elite, so their losses were minimal. But the leader prepared for the upcoming battle by summoning the core of the Holy Land, 3 whole legions of the Holy Church. These warriors came close to receiving the title of demigods, never suffered defeat, and never let the bishop down. The head of the church is angry, vowing to stop the followers of death who have come to the Holy Land. Charlie scouts the area and notes that almost all buildings are reinforced with light crystals that are harmful to skeletons. He is convinced that the patriarch has indeed called all his elite troops, but fortunately, Ches told him about it in advance. Charlie grins in displeasure, noting that the light crystals do indeed irritate him. Because of them, the Harbor of Light turned into an impregnable place. It's good that the guy ordered the undead to simply surround the city. He thinks that it would be ideal to create a breach and plunge the harbor into chaos, and an idea comes to the young man's mind. After ingesting the special seeds, Charlie activates plant fusion, causing a giant vine to instantly grow from the ground. She entangles the guy, penetrating his body and illuminating the space green. Charlie smiles. He is about to try out a technique that has come to mind, and shoots burst out of the young man's hand. They become longer and thicker, and then move upward, directed by the will of the owner. Charlie smiles contentedly. He likes the result. The power of the ghost vine exceeded his expectations. He decides it's time to have some fun with the saints and rushes forward with anticipation. One of the priests, hearing strange sounds behind him, looks over his shoulder and is surprised to see Losa. He and his colleague ask who Charlie is, and instead of answering, he waves his sword with a satisfied look. He rushes forward, jumping in the air and flying straight towards the church ministers. They gasp in fear. One even instinctively covers himself with his hand to protect himself either from the vine or from its owner. But the plant manages to catch the wrist through the clothes. The priest begins to emit filth, and his companion orders him to immediately use cleanse, but it does not work. Warriors run to the scene. One of them offers to capture the troublemaker. He leaps into the air with his powerful weapon, attempting to bring it down on Charlie's head. For a while, he stands there, motionless, with only a smile on his face, while the blade approaches menacingly. But at the last moment, the young man escapes the blow, and the huge axe only reaches the tile. The attacker wonders where he went, and the disappearance is announced, inflicting a fatal blow to the man's stomach with his blade. Tearing his gaze away from the corpse at his feet, Charlie notices another warrior approaching him. The guy grins, continuing to stand under the approaching axe like last time. Deja vu arises. But he decides to add some variety to the events by appearing not in front of, but behind, the enemy. Charlie strikes and the warrior collapses, clutching his stomach and begins to reek of filth. Charlie turns to face his now invisible opponent, smiling as he notices that he is the only one left. This warrior is different from all the previous ones. He is enveloped in a golden glow, and in his hand, instead of an axe, he has a pike. Charlie grimaces,